Happy Friday, everybody. Chris, here we go. Happy Passover and happy Easter to everybody out there. Good Friday for those of you. And hopefully it'll be a good Friday for what we're going to be doing this afternoon. We got some fun stuff coming along. And USFL. So we've got show and tell. We'll show you our show and tell for the USFL. All things Birmingham, as we like to say, coming up. So Chris, last night, if you were a fan of anything Washington, it wasn't a good night. The Nationals got tanked in Pittsburgh, and the Toronto Maple Leafs laid bare the Capitals. So it was not a good night for the teams with the DC logos today.
But it was a good night for me because, the Leafs won. So,
well, the Cubbies are playing good baseball.
Yeah, that's true. They did beat Colorado yesterday. I said that game would stay under 11. It only got to 7?
Yeah.
I think it was 5-2.
Yeah.
It was weird, though, for that Leafs game to see them score 7 goals and not see Austin Matthews score any of them.
So there's that. Yeah.
Though he did have 2 assists, so he's now in the 100-point club, joining the only guys to score 100 points for the Leafs in the last half century. Doug Gilmour did it twice in the 90s, and Darryl Sittler in the 70s. So some pretty rarefied air for Mr. Matthews.
Well, good for him.
Yeah, of course, we talked about it last week or the week before. I can't remember, but our condolences go to the family of Mike Bossy, who passed away today at the age of 65.
Phenomenal hockey player.
Yeah, for people that aren't familiar with hockey from the 80s or anything, everybody talks about Gretzky and the Oilers, but before Gretzky and the Oilers, there was Bossy and Trottier and Dennis Potvin and John Tonelli and Billy Smith and the Islanders, who won 4 straight cups from 80 to 83. And Bossy was, I would have to say, he was probably the quintessential goal scorer of that generation. I know everybody wants to talk about Gretzky scoring 92 and everything else, but you look at what Bossy did during that era where he was so consistent with putting the puck in the net. He averaged better than 57 goals or something like that a season in his career. He had, if you look every year, his first 9 years in the league, he scored at least 51 goals, and in his final year, he retired at 30. Remember?
Yeah.
In 63 games as a 30-year-old, he had 38 goals and 37 assists before hanging it up. I think there's a lot of guys in the league that would kill to have that be their best year, much less their worst year in a 10-year career. But yeah, our thoughts on going out to the Bossy family and the Islanders organization as a whole, because Bossy was such a key cog in that organization for such a long time.
And we did mention this earlier, but I believe today is the funeral of Dwayne Haskins, outstanding quarterback at Ohio State University, and someone who at the tender age of 24 was trying to get things together as a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, I know Coach Tomlin is someone who's a phenomenal man, and he and the organization, along with everybody in the NFL and all of our fans of the NFL, to wish the best to the Haskins family for that tragic accident that happened this past week. So heavy hearts from there, but we go on and we move on to there's a lot of action here on Friday. And we're going to start things off with our buddies at DraftKings. DraftKings, if I hit the button properly, there it is. Okay. DraftKings has a promo for Max Wagers Network. And, of course, that's winners and whiners, picks and parlays. Here's the deal, guys. It's pretty simple. Bet $5 to win $200 in free bets when you make your first deposit, and bet of $5 on any Major League Baseball money line. You win $200 in a free bet. Okay, so that's the deal. You have to use the promo code, and it's WAW, which is Winners and Whiners Video. Get all the information in our show box below where everything good happens to be. All right, cool. So, Christopher, where do we go today, opening day? Going to baseball?
Yep.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, it's the Yankees and the Orioles. Everybody loves, Baltimore, especially when you're the team playing them, because let's face it, the Orioles haven't been good in recent years. And you can't expect things to be a whole lot better this season when you look at their pitching staff, which is pretty much a train wreck. The Yankees 4-3 now. They beat Toronto last night. And it seemed like nobody wanted – if you were the losing team in that series, nobody wanted to score any runs. I believe – I'm going to double-check this. I believe that the losing team was shut out in all 4 games between the Yankees and Toronto. Let me double-check here.
I think you're right.
I didn't say schedule, but, that's the way this thing wants to work today. Click one button and have it bring up something different.
What do you want? Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. 3 of the games were shutouts. I forgot the Garrett Cole Jose Barrios game ended up 6-4, but still 3 shutouts in 4 games in the series. So we actually saw some good pitching. The Yankees part of a 3-way tie atop the AL East with the Rays and the Blue Jays. All those 3 teams 4-3.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Baltimore, well, they're where Baltimore usually is this time of year.
They're mathematically eliminated.
Yeah, they're 1-5. They're 2.5 games off the pace already, and we've only played a week. Jordan Montgomery had a no decision in his debut against the Red Sox, took a ball off at the back of his knee in that game, so he threw 3 1/3 innings. He says he's good to go tonight. He'll face Jordan Lyles, who was roughed up by Tampa Bay in his opening start, giving up 5 runs in 5 innings, walking 3 and striking out 2.
Let me just stop you for a second. When would you think that your starting pitcher with an ERA of 8.10 is actually better than the guy he's throwing against?
Well, normally when it's the Orioles pitching, when you're facing the Orioles, you've probably got a good shot.
Yeah. Whoa. I know it's early, but those ERAs are pretty brutal.
Yeah. The Yankees tied for 22nd in the majors in runs per game with 3.5. They were 19th in runs on the road last year with 4.39. This is their road opener. Baltimore dead last in runs per game so far. They're averaging 2. Yes, that's not a typo, 2. They are slightly better at home. They average 2.67.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. The total for this game is set. I think it was 9. Let me double check and make sure it's still 9 because otherwise it'll mess up my things. Oh, it was 9.5. It is down to 9. So those numbers still hold. The Yankees 4-0 in their last 4 on the road with a total between 9 and 10.5. They're 8-1 in their last 9 overall with a total set at 9 and 10.5. They're 6-2 in their last 8 against a starter with a WHIP greater than 1.3. Baltimore 15-48 in their last 63 overall, and they're 12-47 in their last 59 against the American League East. Not going to say a whole lot more about Baltimore, but the Yankees have gone 41-14 in the last 55 meetings between these teams, and they're 24-7 in the last 31 meetings in Charm City. I know Montgomery hasn't pitched well. The Yankees haven't hit all that well, but, Baltimore is usually the cure-all for what ails you when it comes to Major League Baseball in recent years. Look for the Yankees to drink from that elixir and pick up a victory here on the road.
And a good victory it would be. It's, by the way, hi, Ryan, James, and Michael. Good to see all of you. In a small world category, long ago, my wife's family owned the Baltimore Orioles. And it was her uncle. And her favorite player growing up was Luis Aparicio. So it's been a long time since the Orioles have been been relevant. Davey Johnson did a pretty good job with them in the 90s.
True.
But, then things went sour. And Michael has a question for you here. And it is, good afternoon. He likes Marcus Stroman and the Cubbies tonight. What do you think there, Chris? Those are your boys.
Yeah, they're facing German Marquez and the Rockies at Coors Field. Stroman looked pretty good in his season debut. Gave up 1 run in 5 innings against the Brewers, and then the bullpen, of course, blew it later on in the contest.
Got
The
to do
Rockies
your
are,
best.
yeah, the Rockies are a tough team to figure out. I mean, normally you expect them to hit well at Coors Field, but like I said, they only scored 2 runs last night. Marquez, funny thing about him, he's a former Cubs farmhand and ended up going to Colorado. I can't remember what the deal was that he got traded, but they had high expectations for him. Then they decided he wasn't going to fit, and they shipped him out. He's a good pitcher. He pitched 7 innings, gave 1 run on 3 hits with no walks and 5 strikeouts in his season debut, but got a no decision. I think it's going to be a good matchup, but I think, based on what we've seen from the Cubs so far, you have to give them the upper hand here.
Yeah, absolutely. Dodgers. Before we get to the Dodgers and the Reds here in a second, Michael, if you remember, I think was it 94 or 95, the Jeffrey Mayer game, where
Jesus.
There was. By the way, we mentioned him early in the week. That the guy, the umpire on the line that night in that game was Angel Hernandez. So,
of course it was.
Of course it was. Why wouldn't it be? So yeah, there was. The Orioles had a good playoff run, and I believe, what was it? Was it 2014 or 2015 they got into the ALCS?
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that.
And that game with Jeffrey Mayer was game 1 of the ALCS in '96.
Yeah. So yeah, Michael, they've had some decent teams, but basically it hadn't been recently. So there you go. Now, I watched a little bit of this game last night, and the Dodgers jumped on Cincinnati pretty hard. But the Dodgers are doing something that's really interesting, Chris. They're scoring after the 7th inning.
Yeah, that was the big thing yesterday.
After the 7th inning. They've scored more runs after the 7th inning this year than they've scored in total before the 7th inning.
Yeah, they had 6 in the 8th last night to break a 3-3 tie. Of course, the game shouldn't have even been tied, but David Price, nothing like falling behind 3-0 to a guy, having a pitch fouled off, and then thinking you're going to sneak an 83-mile-an-hour changeup over the middle of the plate, belt high, thinks that somebody's not going to tattoo it. That's what tied the game. Yeah, it cost Buehler a win. Then they had, of course, like we said, they scored 6 in the 8th. Yeah, Trey Turner had a RBI single, and then Smith drove a 3-run homer, and at that point you could turn the lights out. Cincinnati now 2-5, but the Dodgers, they made it interesting because it's got to make things difficult for the betting public who thought that they were going to win convincingly. I mean, they did win, and at the end of the day, but 3-3 in the bottom of the 8th is not what you were expecting in that game by any stretch of the imagination. Vladimir Gutierrez 0-1 with a .415 earned run average, a 1.846 whip, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, and 4 1/3. Going to go against Tony Gonsolin, who has no record, a 3 ERA, a 2 whip, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts. He only pitched 3 innings in his debut against the Rockies last weekend. The Reds 16th in runs per game at 4.29. They're 11th in runs on the road at 4.4. The Dodgers 4th in the majors, averaging 5.67 runs a game. They were 7th in runs at home last year with 5.06. Of course, with only 1 home game, you could say, hey, they're averaging 9 runs a game at home. That's not really a stat you can base yourself on after 1 game. The Dodgers 54-17 in the second game of their last 71 series. They're 54-18 in their last 72 with the total set between 9 and 10.5 runs. They're 113-41 in their last 154 home games against a right-handed starter. The Reds 1-4 in their last 5 against righties, 1-5 in their last 6 against teams with a winning record, and 0-4 in the second game of their last 4 series coming into this one. Let's face it, I know the Reds played well against Atlanta. Since then, they haven't done squat. They lost both games to the Guardians. They got lost yesterday. They'll probably lose today. Odds are they'll lose tomorrow. And, they might lose Sunday too, just to, keep a trend going.
Even things out. Yeah.
Then they'll be 2-8. Nobody will talk about the Reds anymore.
Quick note to those of you. Tonight's Apple TV Plus game, which you can stream for free, is the Rays and the White Sox. So that's your option. By the way, quick consumer note: you have to have a Apple ID to log in to watch the game for free. Okay. Now, if you're an Android user like myself, you may not have an Apple ID. So I'm giving you this information ahead of time. So if you want to stream the game tonight, get yourself an Apple ID because that is the only way you can access it. So
Oh, and I see the late game for Apple TV is the aforementioned Reds and Dodgers.
it is, yeah, it is. So the Dodgers and the Reds. And by the way, I did check out Apple TV Plus, and they do. They bought from DAZN the Whip Around, which is basically the same thing as you get on the MLB Network, where Harold Reynolds and Matt Vasgersian and the guys sit around and they talk about the games as the games are being played. So it's pretty entertaining. So check out Apple TV Plus tonight, and remember you have to have an Apple. Plus subscription to watch. ID to watch it. So be forewarned and give it a try. All right. James says Stream East. So not quite sure what that means, James, but let us know. All right. So from the okay, here we go. Oh, here's.
Yeah, you're right, Michael. He was. I've got Marquez crossed up with someone else. Probably Archer, because Archer got traded to Tampa Bay in a deal. So yeah, Marquez was signed by the Rays, and then they traded him for Dickerson.
Yeah, he was signed at 16. So he was. I don't know how old he is now, but he was. He can't be too old. 23, 24? Yes. No?
Let's see. He's 27.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. Well,
yeah, I figure he came up in the majors in 2016.
Yeah, Archer was a Cub, he says. Okay.
Yeah, Archer was. Archer got traded. Yeah, Archer. I got Archer and Marquez crossed up.
Right. Okay. It happens. Okay.
Yeah, now you look at Archer, and Archer's a sad sack piece of crap. So it probably worked out that we traded him, because he never really panned out the way anybody expected.
I will say this about Chris: he is an incredibly nice guy, and he's an incredibly well-spoken guy. I have no doubt that Chris Archer is going to be on TV somewhere, probably sooner than later. He's definitely got the TV vibe down. He did some TV whenever he was injured, and it turned out very nicely. All right,
he was traded to Tampa Bay in the deal that brought Matt Garza to Chicago back in 2011.
Yeah, my God, how many times was Matt Garza traded? That was, man, he's one of those suitcases. He played for everybody. All right, so what? We're going to the ice tonight. Right now?
Yep. There's only 2 games on the ice tonight, so
there you go.
We got them both covered.
The Panthers and the Jets.
Yeah, I know Sly will be disappointed, but Winnipeg, they had to fly to get out of that weather up there, and now they go to Florida tomorrow. They've got Tampa Bay, so it doesn't get any easier for the Jets. And we've talked about how Florida is a tough place to play if you're a visiting team. Especially when you're trying to fight for your playoff lives like the Jets are. Mm-hmm. You look here at the numbers: the Jets 16, 13, and 8 on the road. Florida 31 and 6 on home ice this season. Connor Hellebuyck 27, 25, and 10 at 293 goals against, a 911 save percentage, and 4 shutouts between the pipes for the Jets. Supposed to be, and I say supposed to be because you never know with Andrew Brunette if he's going to switch it up and go from Sergei Bobrovsky to Spencer Knight. But as of right now, it's supposed to be Bobrovsky 35, 6, and 3 with a 2.7 goals against, a 911 save percentage, and 3 shutouts. You talk about Florida and their offense. It's even more dangerous at home. They average 4.14 goals a game overall this season, which leads the league. On home ice, that number jumps up to 4.68 goals a contest. Tough to win when you're playing behind the 8 ball on the scoreboard all night. You look here, the Jets in the middle of the road offensively, 3.08 goals a game. That drops to 2.78 on the road. and they give up 308 a game. So that shows you what their goal differential is. Nothing. The Jets, or the Panthers, I should say, 12th in goals against at 2.9. They're 4-0 in their last 4 against the West. They're 7-1 in their last 8 after giving up 2 goals or less. They're 44-8 in their last 52 as a home favorite. Winnipeg just 3-13 in their last 16 after allowing 2 or less in their last game, and they're 1-4 in their last 5 against teams with a winning record. Just a rough stretch for the Jets here. Like John said, they need it. Unfortunately, just because you need something doesn't mean you get it. That's the way the world works. Unfortunately, if you look at the standings, Winnipeg currently enters tonight. Let's see. They are 8 points behind Dallas for the second wild card spot with 8 games to go. And with, like we said, tough sledding with playing tonight against Florida and then having to go and play Tampa Bay tomorrow. It could make for a real uphill climb.
Well, and Tampa Bay also is in a position where they need to win too, because they had some backsliding in that. So
yeah, they were fortunate to win yesterday over Anaheim.
Yeah,
in overtime.
Yeah,
and but they did catch a break because Boston fell to Ottawa. Thanks a lot, Bruins. Normally I don't like Boston at all. Obviously, an original 6 rivalry in the history of them knocking Toronto out of the playoffs multiple times in recent years. But come on, you were playing a Senators team that's playing for nothing but pride, and you were playing at home, and you still lost.
Yeah.
So, screw you, Bruins.
Yeah. The Isles and the Canadiens. Yeah.
Yeah, this is called the other game on TV because it's the only other game on the schedule. And, yeah, the Islanders 34-30-9. They're 15-17-5 on the road. Montreal, who cares? They're out of the playoffs. They've been out of the playoffs for a long time. The big storyline tonight, not that Semyon Varlamov is supposed to start. Personally, I would have started Sorokin, even though he lost yesterday to Pittsburgh. It's that Carey Price is going to make his first start of the year for the Canadiens. Because, why not bring him back with 6 or 7 games to go when you're in last place in the entire league? Why not play the guy that you're paying $10.5 million? Get a little return on your investment, right?
Right.
He was 12-7-5 with a 264 goals against a 901 save percentage and 1 shutout last year in 25 starts. Like I said, he has yet to play this season, went into the player assistance program in October, and that was the last you heard of him until last week. I'm concerned what kind of game shape is he in at this point? I mean, he hasn't played since the Stanley Cup Finals.
Carey Price?
Hasn't played since the Cup Finals last summer.
Yeah.
He's had injury issues prior to that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what was it, a hip or something that impacted him a lot last season? I mean, you look, he played 25 games. He played 58 the year before, 66 the year before that, but the guy hasn't played in a year. I mean, what kind of game shape you can practice is only going to do so much for you. It's not going to put you in the situation of when you've got, guys that are barreling down on you on a 3-on-1 rush or anything like that. What kind of game shape is he in? Why bring him back now? You're not going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
You're not anywhere near the playoffs. You're not going to do anything to improve your team here by putting him on the ice.
Well, maybe it's because they figure, all right, let's get him into a game just to get his headspace there. And even if he gives up 6 goals, like you said, they're not going anywhere. So maybe that's it. I mean, maybe they just want to get him into a game so he can get comfortable with playing again.
I mean, he's going to be 35 years old. How much does he have left in the tank? It's not like you're bringing back Jacques Plante here. I'm
not advocating for him. I'm simply suggesting that these are raisins that Montreal's doing. Barry Trotz is putting somebody who he thought he stole from the Capitals and Semyon Varlamov in goal, and that hasn't worked out well either. And Michael says that maybe Montreal's trying to get the number 1 pick in the ping pong balls. So
They could do that with Samuel Montembeault. I mean,
right.
you don't have to bring Carey Price in for this. I mean, I guess you're trying to see, does he have anything left? Blah blah blah. But like I said, he's going to be 35.
Is he out of contract at the end of this year, or is he still in contract?
That's what I'm going to double check. I know he signed a lengthy deal before.
Yeah, I know. Is this an extension? Was this part of an extension? Or
Let's see. Double checking here. Let's see what his contract. Oh no, he's under contract until 2025-26.
oh man, okay.
So his cap number is $10.5 million all the way through 25-26 when he'll be 38.
John thinks that maybe they're showcasing him for off-season trade.
Nobody's going to want to pick him up because nobody wants to pay $10.5 million to a goaltender that's 35.
Well, that's where dead money becomes an issue, right? How bad do the Canadians want to keep him versus how bad would somebody else take it? So if you want Carey Price, you think maybe Carey Price would be a good backup, or you're not going to pay $10 million. So that means how much does Montreal want to get rid of him? And if that's the case, then they're going to have to eat a lot of contract. So my guess is that Carey Price is probably going to be sitting out by the pool drinking Mai Tais in a year or two and not worrying about hockey, but collecting his cash.
And when it comes to contracts like that, John, you should be familiar with the way that goalies get overpaid, because I'll mention a name that everybody on Long Island still shudders when they think about it, and that's Rick DiPietro.
Oh yeah.
They paid him a truckload of money to basically do nothing because, let's face it, he was a major bust when it came to being a relevant goaltender. I mean, his contract just ended in 2020, where he was paid a 15-year deal for $67.5 million. You bought him out in 2013. You still had to pay him for another 7 years. In Montreal's case, I don't know if anybody would take him. I don't know if anybody wants to deal with a guy like that. You have to figure what Marc-Andre Fleury getting. He's getting way less money than that, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, and he's about the same age. It's true, Michael, about what Lundqvist did. He played a little bit for the Capitals, but then he hurt himself and he went back and retired. And this is, John said, he's the Bobby Bonilla of the NHL. Could be.
That's true.
But the problem is, and this is even if they get rid of him, right? Which I would not doubt that you're right that they would try to do. That's still money against the cap.
Yeah, because even the compliance buy, like you said, it still counts against the cap. So you've just got dead cap money.
Right. And that's what happens when you overpay and somebody doesn't perform. So there's that, which is not necessarily a good thing from anybody's state of mind. Hey, you know what? Let's talk about something that is a good thing. And that's something that's from our buddies at Caesars. Now, Caesars Sportsbook is giving you first bet insurance all the way up to $1,100. Place a first-time wager of up to $1,100. You get it back in the form of a free bet, even if you lose. Okay, so there's no way you can lose giving this a try. So go out and give it a try. But first, you have to understand something, and that, of course, is you're going to have to use our promo code, because this is a deal just for those of you watching us right here on the Max Wagers Network. All right. So you got to hit that promo code, enter it, click in the show box below, and you'll be good to go. Now, remember, you got to be 25 years of age to participate. And always, always, as we say right here, bet responsibly. Okay. We ask you to do that because it's the right thing to do. All right. Okay. So we have playoff action on the hardwood tonight, right?
One last thing to throw about Carey Price, Jim. His cap hit is the highest among any goaltender in the National Hockey League.
Oof. Well, there you go, boys and girls.
So,
all right. Nick has a question before we get to hockey. And that is, Giants, Yankees, Rays. Like it? It's a parlay. What do you think?
I actually, I'm a little leery about the Giants because they haven't scored a lot of runs. I know Rodon's pitching today, but Zach Plesac looked good for the Guardians, and Cleveland's played some good baseball of late. Tampa Bay, I don't know what to make out of them. They played good against Baltimore, then they played horrible against Oakland. They're throwing, Drew Rasmussen today?
I think so.
The one thing I was going to look up about him was I wanted to know if he was related to Dennis Rasmussen or not. But it's going to be Dylan Cease for the White Sox. And Cease is another guy that the Cubs traded in their run to try and get another World Series title. But I lead with the White Sox, and I lead with the Guardians just because I like the way Cleveland's pitching staff is. And with the Giants not scoring a bunch of runs, that plays right into Cleveland's wheelhouse because they don't like to score either most of the time.
That's a definite under on that one.
Yeah, and playing in the weather, how are the Giants going to adapt to playing on the shores of Lake Erie and everything else? They're not familiar with the ballpark. Rodon is because he pitched for the White Sox, but
right.
You're going to have. I imagine there's going to be wind. I imagine it's not going to be great weather. So I was going to lean. I leaned towards the Guardians myself.
Well, at least it's not on the banks of the river. I mean, banks of the Ohio,
the Cuyahoga,
Erie, because that was having worked in that old stadium. That used to be really cold. And
yeah, Cleveland Stadium was it was adult too.
Very cold. Only it's nicer. It's a nicer building, but it's still cold.
And Mike, even if the compliance buyout is 58% against the cap, you're still sucking up $5+ million a year for the next 3-4 years on price.
And $5 million on a cap is that's a drag.
Yeah, because you're talking about the cap's 82 or 83 million they're projecting, so you're chewing up 6-7% of your cap on a guy that you don't even have. Right,
and that 5%, that $5 million, for instance, could be a second or third line defenseman.
Yeah.
Because that's about where in the $3 to $5 million, that's where you get your lower guys, but guys who are contributors type guys. And
yeah, exactly.
You got to look at the cap and say, crap, $5 million against the cap. That's one less player we're going to have. So it does, unless they can figure out a way to make it work, it's going to be tough. Isn't Cuyahoga the reason the song Smoke on the Water? It did catch on fire. I can't tell you yet, Michael, if it is the reason for Smoke on the Water, but it did catch on fire down where they called in that area. They call it the Flats. So we'll see. And speaking of the NBA, we're going to go there. And speaking of Cleveland, we're going to go there. So here you go, boys and girls. The Hawks and the Cavaliers playing down in Atlanta.
Nope, they're playing in Cleveland.
Okay, well,
I should have changed that to road. I just didn't see it.
I'm sorry. My bad.
No, that's my fault because I should have switched it. But yeah, Atlanta going to Cleveland. Atlanta, of course, blew out Charlotte the other night. You notice Tim hasn't been here since after he said the Hornets were going to win that one.
Point well taken. Yes.
Just kidding about Tim. He's a good guy, but
he's part of our family.
Cleveland, of course, lost to the Nets. So Cleveland a 2-point underdog at home. The injury report, I don't think. Last I saw, Jared Allen was questionable. I don't know what kind of shape he's going to be in, even if he plays. He hasn't played in 5 weeks with that broken finger. He's still marked as questionable. Cleveland's defense fell off a cliff after Allen got hurt. They were, I think, 5th in defensive efficiency when he was on the floor at that point. After he went out, they dropped to 20th.
There you go.
So on the other side, on the injury report, Bogdanovich, as Chuck will tell you, the younger Bogdanovich or whatever he wants to call him, the better one, however he wants to put it, is questionable tonight with an ankle sprain. John Collins still out for Atlanta. But, I mean, this comes down to the fact that Cleveland has not looked good down the stretch. They started off strong, then they kind of fell apart. Atlanta's still a very good team offensively, 6th in the league. They scored 132 points the other night against Charlotte. Cleveland, they're good defensively, but they can't buy a bucket to save their lives, especially in crunch time of games. They don't have a real go-to guy outside of Garland, and if he's clamped down trying to deal with Trae Young for 40 minutes, it's going to be tough for him to get some looks. And then who you rely on? Do you rely on Kevin Love? Do you rely on Lauri Markkanen? Do you hope Mobley can answer the call in a playoff situation? Atlanta, as bad as they were for long stretches this season, they've already been here before. They've been to the playoffs. They went last year. They won the first round against the Knicks. Cleveland, they overachieved, really, when you think about it. They lost Colin Sexton less than a handful of games into the year. They tried to adjust on the fly. They had Rubio. They traded him, and then Rubio got hurt. They had Rondo. He did nothing. I'm going to take the Hawks here. They're 7-0 against the spread in their last 7 as a favorite. They're 5-1 in their last 6 on 1 day of rest. They're 8-2 in their last 10 overall. Cleveland 3-9 against the spread in their last 12. 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 on 2 days of rest, and 0-4 in their last 4 at home against teams with a losing road record. I just don't have faith in Cleveland at this point of the season. You have to think that the Cavaliers' run, as nice as it was, as they say, all good things must come to an end. And unfortunately for the Cavaliers, that takes place tonight. Look for Trae Young to have another big night like he did the other night and carry the Hawks to a victory.
We, our crack research department here at the Max Wagers Network, we just put out a quick link there for you, folks, so that you can click on it and find out what songs actually were about the burning of the Cuyahoga River. So,
yeah, and as for Smoke on the Water, that had to do with an incident in Switzerland.
Yeah. So
with in Montreux, Switzerland, when they were recording Machine Head, using the Rolling Stones mobile studio at the Montreux Casino when Frank Zappa was having a concert.
Well, there's a name out of the past. Yeah.
Yeah. The place caught fire when somebody in the audience fired a flare gun towards the ceiling, which was mentioned in the song as "some stupid with a flare gun." Although there were no major injuries, the resulting fire destroyed the entire Montreux Casino, along with all of Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention's equipment.
Oh, man.
So the Smoke on the Water became the title of the song, which was credited to Roger Glover, who said the title occurred to him when he woke from a dream a few days later, referring from the smoke from the fire spreading over Lake Geneva from the burning casino, as Deep Purple watched from their hotel. So there you go. Music trivia brought to you by the letter Q, the number 7, and tacos.
That's right. We're a full service thing here. Not only are you going to find out about all your best bets for the weekend, you've hit us with trivia. We do our best to make sure you know it all. And by the way, the Burning Cuyahoga, which actually was about the Burning Cuyahoga, was a Randy Newman song. So there you go. Anyway,
good old Randy Newman.
I think was it Ryan that asked me about the Nationals tonight at bounce back game? Look, they've been playing win one, lose one so far, so I wouldn't go against them in that regard. And Pittsburgh and Washington are mirror images at this point of each other for the moment. So, who knows?
Mirror images of dumpster fires.
Yeah, nobody said it was a pretty mirror. It's just a mirror. So yeah, we'll see, Ryan. Buddy, if I honestly knew that would be a good thing. But
for the record, I think the Nationals are going to bounce back. I think Eric Freddy can outpitch Mitch Keller. But then again, I think Helen Keller could outpitch Mitch Keller. So,
we need a drum roll. Anyway, so there's that. So all right, cool. Hawks, Cavaliers, and looks like Atlanta's moving on to play Miami, right? First round.
Yep, another like a divisional rivalry.
Yeah, and the Hawks and the Heat are nothing like a divisional rivalry, but they're, you know what, they're going to have to be for tonight. You know what? That's just the way it is, right? For tonight, that's what you get. And what else is going on here, Chris? Is there any more?
We got one more.
Oops, I didn't touch it.
No, that was me.
Pels and the Clips.
Now, take note in case you've been living under a rock this afternoon, or you didn't get the memo. This line has shifted dramatically. The Clippers were originally favored by 4. Then it came out that Paul George has entered the health and safety protocols and will not play tonight for the Clippers. So, of course, the line changed in a hurry.
PG3.
Yeah, so he's not going to play. Kennard is questionable. Kawhi Leonard, of course, still not playing. Meanwhile, for the Pelicans, the only guy that you know isn't going to play is Zion. So, who cares? They still have Randall, or not Randall, they have Ingram. They have Valanciunas. You got CJ McCollum, who had a big game to help the Pelicans get past the Spurs the other night. Originally, I had backed the Clippers, and then I found out George wasn't playing and said, well, the reason why the Clippers got hot down the stretch was because George was back. Well, now he's not here. So you're trying to figure out who's going to step up for the Clippers, and the answer is good luck figuring that out. You look at the rest of the rotation. I mean, you got Reggie Jackson. No, not that Reggie Jackson who hit 3 homers in the 77 World Series game against the Dodgers. No, Reggie Jackson, the guy that used to play for the Pistons and the Thunder and insert other teams. Are you going to rely on Norman Powell? He's played 5 games for the Clippers since he got traded from Portland. I don't know what you can expect from him at this point. He came back down the stretch after missing a bunch of time with a broken foot. You got Marcus Morris. He only played 54 games. And then you're down to like Terrence Mann and Robert Covington and Zubac. So you got a bunch of guys that are decent role players, but you don't have a go-to guy on the offensive end now, and that's a problem. Because if you look at the Pelicans now have McCollum. They've got Ingram. Like I said, Valanciunas is good. Herb Jones has turned out to be a really good find in the draft. He can play good defense and make a few buckets. Like I said, I liked the Clippers when he wasn't hurt. But now that George is out, I had to switch things around. The Pelicans 13-5 in their last 18 on the road, 7-3 in their last 10 when their opponent gives up at least 100 points. Clips 7-19 in their last 26 on 2 days of rest. Of course, they lost to Minnesota on Tuesday night. And the Pelicans 38-17 against the spread in the last 55 meetings. It's only a 1-point line, so the line has shifted 5 points from what it was originally. Because, like I said, the Clippers were favored by 4 as of late last night. Now it's 1.5 in favor of the Pelicans. So I'm going to ride New Orleans here. I'm just worried that the Clippers won't be able to generate enough offense. I mean, they only scored 104 with George against Minnesota, and we know how bad the Timberwolves can be defensively.
There's no question about that. They're not exactly a team that you fear from a standpoint of, oh my God, I have to play defense against them. But gosh, I really wanted the Clippers to be the team to beat the Pelicans because I have George Shinn, the owner of the Pelicans, has always been one of those guys who you just look at and go, ugh, drive you nuts. But you're right. I mean, without PG3, PG13, you got problems, and they just don't have enough weapons to match up against the Pelican team that is in this one.
And Michael said back to baseball there, Byron Buxton, who the Twins are banking on staying healthy, hurt himself about half an hour ago, sliding into second on a leadoff pop-up double. He walked off on his own, but slapped the ground hard, knowing something's up. So hopefully for the Twins and for Buxton, it's not a serious injury because that kid's got a world of talent, but he always finds a way to end up getting derailed by some freak injury. I mean, he could probably be an MVP candidate if he wasn't on the IL half the time.
Yeah. One of the things that concerns, he's kind of like Trey Turner, who the Dodgers, who was with the Nationals. They play so hard that sometimes they forget that you can play hard, but you don't have to play silly. And I remember Trey Turner, just before he got traded, as a matter of fact, went for a triple to get the cycle. And when he slid into third base, he slid with the oven mitt hand, and the oven mitt hand got stuck under the bag, and it hurt his hand clearly, and he was out for a few games. And same thing, and Schwarber then got hurt, and so basically then they started trading the entire team away because things were going south. But there are guys early in his career. Bryce Harper was that way. Bryce was banging off walls. He was doing all kinds of crazy stuff. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite things to see about Bryce was before a game one day, we were in the press box and looking out, and Bryce, they were, early in the game. I mean, early in the day, they take outfield practice in baseball and batting practice. Jason Worth, who's one of the absolute great clubhouse comedians, went out to right field and took some yellow tape and marked it off like a dead body was against the outfield wall, and said, and then used a pencil and said, one of those marking pencils, and said Bryce Harper. And so, when Bryce came out, he saw that, there was that imprint of him on the wall. So yeah. Andrew McCutchen is, Michael said he would compare Buxton to McCutchen. McCutchen also, a career, you wonder how well he could have been had he not been constantly injured, both with Pittsburgh and then, in the trade to Philadelphia and other places. So, yeah, I mean, there are those players who just are immensely talented, but just can't buy a break when it comes to getting hurt.
Yeah, and Brad, I agree with you about the Hawks. Cleveland doesn't look right. They haven't looked right since Allen got hurt. They don't play defense the way they did early in the season, and they don't have a good offensive rotation to work with either.
Right. Even with the right Bogdanovich. Right. So there you go. All right. So show and tell time. This weekend we're getting back to the USFL. Now this, boys and girls, is my Tampa Bay Bandits sweater, which was given to me by the late, great Mr. Burt Reynolds when I used to produce, and actually directed, the USFL in the 1980s. And they're back. Whether that's good or bad, that's up to you guys. But they start tomorrow, Chris, on NBC and Fox. And I think they've got a pretty good chance of making it because both Fox and NBC have invested heavily in them. The NFL is lending them some of their officials, and they're playing all their games in Birmingham, so you're not going to have to worry about an audience. The running the league the first year is going to be amazingly cheap because there's no travel.
That's true.
And basically everybody practices there, so very interesting. Michael, thank you very much. This sweater is a little pitted at this point, but and still fits, but it's nice to have. Who's playing? Ryan, are you playing golf somewhere? You said you're playing golf?
Yeah, he said he's on the course in Delaware, I think.
Yeah. You're on the course in Delaware? Where? I mean, there's a lot of good golf courses in Delaware. Red Sox getting killed by the Twinkies. Oh, ouch. Okay.
Yeah, it's 4-0 in the bottom of the second.
Okay, you're in Delaware. Fair enough, Michael. Ryan, I'm sorry. Beautiful. Oh, Dover Air Force Base. Hey, Ryan, have you been to Dover Downs and Casino over there? Well, he'll get back to me. All right. All right, let's go for 2 for the money. That sounds fun. How about it, guys?
Alrighty.
For the money? Why not? We got nowhere else to go. Oh, you went there today? Okay. Good people over there. Good people. Florida Panthers. I think we've seen these two. Actually, we've seen these four.
Yep. Makes it easy, doesn't it?
It does. I mean,
the Panthers over the Jets, we talked about it. Florida's a very good team at home. Winnipeg's going to be battling the fatigue of the travel and the weather and all that. And then they've got to play Tampa Bay tomorrow. Just going to be a rough sledding for the Jets. We talked about it, Cleveland and Atlanta. We've talked about how bad the Reds are, and the Dodgers. The way they pile runs on late helps make the run line look better, like they did yesterday. And the Pelicans and the Clippers we talked about with no George. Who do you rely on if you're the Clippers? And the answer is nobody knows.
You got nobody. Billy Crystal, he's a Clippers fan.
Maybe he can suit up.
You never know. He's short, but he's got a good outside shot. All right, so let's go 4-4 for the show.
All right, we got the Yankees over the Orioles, which we talked about, Montgomery and Lyles. I like the White Sox over Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's is back to the point where they've got to prove to me that they actually want to play baseball, because when you lose 3 out of 4 to an Oakland team that has
at home,
that has minimal talent, and I'm not taking anything away from the A's. I mean, they won those games fair and square, as far as I know, but they're still a bottom feeder team that traded away the core of their lineup that got them to the playoffs multiple times in recent years. And you made them look good with a bunch of scrubs. So Tampa Bay's got to prove it. I think Dylan Cease will pitch well for the White Sox. Michael, is it still windy in the Windy City like it was yesterday? I saw a couple of those pop-ups where the guy hit the ball about 8 miles up in the air and nobody fielded it. He ended up on second base on a ball that went about 6 feet in front of the plate. But I think game time temperatures in the Windy City is supposed to be about 40 degrees. Not really what Tampa Bay wants this time of year. I just think Chicago should get the win at home. The Blue Jays over the aforementioned A's, Tampa Bay, beating them 3 out of 4 is one thing, but facing a Toronto team that's got a lineup like the Blue Jays have with Guerrero and Bichette and Springer and Chapman and all those guys is a different story. Dalton Jeffries is going to go against Ross Stripling. Stripling's going to work probably as an opener type of guy. It's probably going to be a bullpen type day for Charlie Montoyo because they pushed Hyun Jin Ryu to tomorrow, give him an extra day of rest. But I think the Blue Jays have enough in the bat so that they can overcome that situation and get the victory. And we talked about the Islanders, win this one for Bossy, when the Islanders were making those runs to the Cup, inevitably one of the teams they'd have to deal with in the postseason was Montreal. And it would only be fitting for them to give Bossy a proper remembrance by beating the Canadiens tonight, even if it is Carey Price's return to the ice this season.
And let me ask you a question. I know we've all seen the movie Brian's Song, and there's that great scene where Brian Piccolo goes into the locker. I mean the hospital room with Gale Sayers after they had dedicated the game to him with the game ball, and he goes and he said, "You do realize that when you dedicate a game to somebody, you're usually supposed to win it." And so, you hope that if they go to tonight there and they win one for Mike Bossy, they actually go out and win one.
Right.
But there's no reason to believe they wouldn't. And that's for darn sure. I mean, that's the way it looks at this point. So you think it's time for the menu, my friend?
Yeah. And Michael, the White Sox don't mean anything to me either. But, when it comes down to picking the White Sox or the Rays today, you kind of have to, pick one or the other.
Well, yeah, it's a binary thing, buddy. You got one, you got two. So,
all right, and here is the menu. And like Andrew said, it's Jackie Robinson Day today, so let's not overlook that. 75 years ago today.
That's right. It's quite the anniversary.
Yeah. But on the menu today, I'm going to go. Like I said, I took the Nationals yesterday. They looked good for half an inning. Unfortunately, baseball's a 9-inning game, and nobody told Washington. Hopefully today they got the memo and they'll beat the Pirates. It's supposed to be Eric Fetty, like I said, against Mitch Keller. Mitch Keller hasn't impressed me his entire career. I don't expect him to be any better here. I'm going to take the small upset and go with the Guardians over the Giants. I like the way Plesac pitches. He pitched well at home, or he pitches well at home, I should say. Rodon, I know he's got familiarity with the park, but the Giants have to hit better than what we've seen in the early going because runs have been at a bit of a premium for them. You look at the way they struggled outside that one game against San Diego. They scored 13 in that game. In their other 5 games combined, the Giants have a total of 14 runs, and 6 of those came on opening day against the Marlins. Not the kind of numbers that you want to have offensively by any stretch. The Phillies over the Marlins. I don't know what happened in Philadelphia yesterday. Apparently they forgot that they were playing baseball because it's a disappointing showing for them when you consider the fact that you went to Lone Depot Park and there were probably about 13 people in attendance, and some of those were hot dog vendors, and you still lost. The Phillies have lost 3 in a row and 4 or 5 after starting the year 2-0. They lost 4-3 yesterday. Hopefully, Philadelphia turns it around. Pitching matchup is, I think it's Zach Eflin, and is it Pablo Lopez? Let me see. Yeah, Eflin and Lopez. I like Eflin. He pitched well in his debut this season. Got a no decision. Lopez is ridiculously inconsistent, and I don't like him. So I'm going to go with the Phillies. And I talked about the Cardinals yesterday. I thought they were going to beat Milwaukee, and they promptly went out and laid an egg. So we'll turn it around. Freddie Peralta is going for the Brewers today. It's supposed to be Miles Mikolas for the Cardinals. I like Peralta. He rebounded after that slow start against the Cubs on Sunday. After he gave up 3 in the first, he shut him down the rest of his outing. He pitches well at home. The Brewers have a good bullpen. So if they get a lead, you'd like to think they could keep a lead. Look for them to prevail over St. Louis in the battle of 2 teams I like the least in Major League Baseball. I'm going to look for the Hawks and Cavs to go over 223. If you look in their 4 meetings this season, they averaged, I think it was 228.5. You have to think that we're going to see another up-tempo type game here, and that'll push past the number. The Clippers and the Pelicans, I'm a little leery now that it's over 215.5. I liked it when George was playing. I'm a little less certain about it now. But I'm going to stick to it because I like to think that New Orleans will try to run and force the Clippers to adjust to their style. Do I like Mobley over 15.5? Yeah, I mean, he's a good secondary scorer. Outside of Garland, you have to think he's going to get his share of points, especially without Collins in the block. And Clint Capella is not going to defend Mobley, so it's going to be either Bogdanovich or whoever else, DeAndre Hunter. And I like to think Mobley has the advantage over them in that situation. I look for the Panthers to hold the lead over the Jets after the end of one period of play tonight. I'm looking for the Islanders to win in regulation because I don't want to see them go to overtime because that would be the worst thing that they need to do against the guy that hasn't played hockey all year in Carey Price. I look for the Islanders and Canadiens to go over 5.5. Just seems like a low total, especially if Varlamov plays because he hasn't been great and Price has done nothing this season. So you have to think there's going to be a rust factor. How do you adjust? You don't just snap into that off the fly. It's tough to get up to game speed, especially in net. And I look for the Jets and the Panthers to go over 6.5. We talked about how dangerous Florida is on home ice. Winnipeg should get a couple of their own, and that should push this past the mark.
And there you go, boys and girls. That is your mark it down and keep track of it. That's the key to what we're doing here today. is always the menu. And Jackie Robinson, 75 years ago. Hard to believe, isn't it? That's been that long. That is, it's funny. There is one other quick story that goes to that. Right after Jackie Robinson came up, in the same Dodger organization was Roberto Clemente. And the situation was Branch Rickey left the Dodgers and went to the Pirates. And he called up his predecessor at the Dodgers and said, "Are you bringing Clemente up?" And he said, "Well, we're on our third year now of having Jackie. I'm not so sure we want to go with Clemente. He's doing well in Montreal, which is where their AAA facility was at the time." And so the Dodgers made the trade of Clemente to the Pirates, and the rest, as they say, is history. But Roberto Clemente was thought to be, he wasn't contemporary of Jackie Robinson. He came later down the line, but he was signed early by the Dodgers. They held his rights, and eventually he got moved to the Pirates. So there you go. Two tremendous athletes, Roberto Clemente and the late, great Jackie Robinson, both of them in their own way, trailblazers. Jackie, of course, the first African-American in baseball, and Roberto Clemente, one of the first Hispanic players in baseball, and certainly one of the biggest humanitarians. Both of them left their mark on the game, and both of them are celebrated. In the case of Jackie, of course, with Jackie Robinson Day, everybody wore him 42. And in the case of Roberto Clemente, an award given to him every year, given in his name, I should say, every year by Major League Baseball. So all kinds of fun stuff in those little situations. Happy Easter to Michael. He's wishing us a happy Easter. Happy Easter to all of you. Happy Passover as well. Point of personal privilege, my niece is getting married in Philadelphia, which means I got to get out of here. But tomorrow. So there's that. And, guys, it's always fun. Remember a couple things. This is what we need you to do, okay? This is the Max Wagers Network. And I know you're watching it on a number of different platforms. Do us a favor. Go now, we'll wait, and subscribe to the Max Wagers Network, okay? And because very soon, that's going to be where you're going to watch this show live, okay? It's only on the Max Wagers Network. So if you're not watching us on Max Wagers, please go over and, hit that subscribe bell, hit the notification, and, that way you're going to be able to get us, okay? And, good to hear that Ryan is having some fun golfing out there. And we hope you have a good day. A lot of good friends over at Dover Downs. And interestingly enough, many of you probably know this, that Dover Downs is literally, the hotel and casino is literally physically against the NASCAR track. So if you have east-facing windows, you're literally you've got a box in watching the race at Dover Downs. So it's a pretty wild place. So if you ever get a chance to check it out, go there. Hit the button. You're right, buddy. We want that. Smack that thumb too. All right, yeah, all good stuff, guys. Thanks so much, Chris. Have a good holiday weekend, my friend.
You too, Jim. Travel safely.
Thank you. Amtrak's our friend.
That's true.
30th Street Station in Philadelphia. We'll don't have time for cheesesteaks this weekend, boys and girls.
That's too bad.
It is. Life goes on, right?
There's always time for cheesesteaks.
There's always time. So I don't know. I'm on a tight schedule and I'm not in charge, so that makes it even worse. So there you go. Boys and girls, thanks so much for joining us. We always have fun. Chris, of course, it's always a pleasure working with you, my friend. And we shall see you come Monday right here on the Max Wagers Network. Everybody have a safe and enjoyable weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.